The morning sun was shining through the tall windows of the Galactic Integration Academy. Students from many different planets sat in the large lecture hall. Some had blue skin. Some had scales. Some had more than 2 arms. But they all sat together, learning about how different species could live in peace. Professor Vex stood at the front of the room. He was a Carathian, tall and thin, with shimmering blue scales that caught the light when he moved. His voice was calm and gentle as he talked about the history of peace, treaties between worlds. Katie Morgan sat in the third row. She was a human girl, 22 years old, with brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She was not special to look at. She was not tall or strong or beautiful in any unusual way. She was just a normal student, taking notes on her datapad like she did every day. She was writing down something about trade agreements when the doors of the lecture hall exploded. The sound was so loud that many students screamed. Metal and wood flew through the air. Smoke filled the entrance. And through that smoke walked the biggest creature Katie had ever seen. General Zrathkan of the Vorn Dominion was almost 3 meters tall. His body was covered in thick gray armor that seemed to grow from his skin. He had 4 eyes, all of them glowing with a soft red light. His mouth was filled with sharp teeth, and 2 large mandibles clicked on either side of his face. Behind him walked 4 Vorn soldiers. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their eyes scanned the room, looking for any threat. There was no threat. There was only fear. Students scrambled to hide under their desks. Some tried to run for the emergency exits, but the Vorn soldiers moved to block them. One Carathian student started crying. A small creature from a water world fainted and had to be caught by her friend. Professor Vex stepped forward, his hands raised in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. His blue scales had turned pale with fear. "General," he said, his voice shaking. "This is an academy, a place of learning. There are no soldiers here, no weapons. Please, we mean no harm to the Dominion." General Zrathkan did not even look at him. He walked past the professor as if he was not there. His heavy boots cracked the floor tiles with each step. He walked to the center of the room and stopped. "Listen to me," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Your galactic alliance is finished. My forces have taken 17 star systems in the last month alone. Your fleets run from us. Your leaders hide from us. There is no power in this galaxy that can stop the Vorn Dominion." He turned slowly, letting his 4 eyes sweep across the room. He wanted to see the fear. He wanted to taste it. "Your worlds will serve us," he continued. "Your people will work for us. Those who resist will be destroyed. This is not a threat. This is simply the truth of what is coming." Most students could not even look at him. They kept their eyes down, their bodies shaking. The Vorn were known throughout the galaxy as the most feared warriors. They had never lost a war. They had conquered over 200 species. No one stood against them and lived. But then General Zrathkan noticed something strange. In the third row, the human girl was still sitting at her desk. She was not hiding. She was not shaking. She was looking at her datapad, and as he watched, she actually continued writing notes. The general's mandibles clicked with interest. He changed direction and walked toward her. The students near her scrambled to get away, pushing and crawling over each other to escape. But the girl did not move. Zrathkan stopped directly in front of her desk. His shadow covered her completely. His hot breath, smelling of sulfur and something rotten, washed over her face. "You there?" he said. "Human, do you not understand what is happening here? I am telling you that your world will burn. Your species will become our slaves. And you are taking notes?" Katie looked up from her datapad. Her brown eyes met his 4 red ones without blinking. There was no fear in her face. There was no anger either. She simply looked at him the way someone might look at a rude person who had interrupted their work. "I understand what you are saying," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "But I have an exam next week. Professor Vex was explaining something important before you came in." The room went completely silent. Even the Vorn soldiers looked shocked. No one spoke to the general this way. No one in the history of the Dominion had ever dared to be so casual with him. Zrathkan leaned closer. He was so close now that Katie could see her reflection in his 4 eyes. "You mock me, little creature?" "No," Katie said simply. "I am telling you a fact. You came here to scare students. Students who have never fought anyone. Students who cannot hurt you in any way. If you have a problem with the Galactic Alliance, there are proper ways to address it. This is just a performance." The general's mandibles spread wide. It was hard to tell if he was angry or amused. Perhaps both. "I am Zrathkan," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child who did not understand. "I am the conqueror of 11 worlds. I am the breaker of the Keth Armada. I have destroyed civilizations that were old when your species was still learning to make fire." "That is very impressive," Katie said. "But right now, you are standing in a classroom, trying to frighten young people who have done nothing to you. If you want to prove how powerful you are, perhaps you should find someone who will actually fight back." She closed her datapad and stood up. The top of her head barely reached the middle of his chest. She had to look up to meet his eyes. But she stood straight, with her shoulders back, as if they were equals. "My name is Katie Morgan," she said. "I am a human, and humans do not flinch." The words hung in the air. Around the room, students slowly lifted their heads to watch. They could not believe what they were seeing. This small, ordinary girl was standing up to the most feared warrior in the galaxy. General Zrathkan stared at her for a long moment. Then something changed in his eyes. The red glow seemed to burn a little brighter. "Interesting," he said quietly. "Very interesting indeed." General Zrathkan circled Katie slowly, like a hunter studying strange prey. His 4 eyes never left her face. He was looking for something, some crack in her calm, some hidden fear she was trying to hide. He found nothing. "Your species is young," he said as he walked around her. "Humans have been traveling between stars for only 200 years. You are babies in a universe of ancient powers. And yet you stand before me as if you have nothing to fear." "Fear is a choice," Katie replied. She turned her head to follow him as he circled, but her body stayed relaxed. "I choose not to make that choice." "A choice?" The general laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Fear is not a choice. Fear is wisdom. Fear is what keeps weak creatures alive when strong creatures come for them. You should be afraid of me." "Should I?" Katie asked. "Why? What will fear change? Will it make you weaker? Will it make me stronger? Fear does nothing useful right now, so I choose to set it aside." Zrathkan stopped circling. He stood in front of her again, close enough that she could feel the heat coming off his armored body. "The Vorn have conquered over 200 species," he said. "We have never been defeated in ground combat. Not once. Our warriors are bred for war from the moment they are born. We are enhanced with genetic modifications that have been perfected over thousands of years. We are faster, stronger, and more deadly than any other species in this galaxy." "I know," Katie said. "I have read the reports about your people. We study the Vorn Dominion in our history classes. Then you know what we are capable of." "I know what you claim to be capable of," Katie corrected him. "Claims are easy to make. Anyone can say they are powerful. Proof is harder." The room seemed to freeze. Even the air felt thick and heavy. The Vorn soldiers shifted their weapons, waiting for orders. Professor Vex looked like he might faint. But General Zrathkin did not attack. Instead, his mandibles spread wide in what might have been a smile. It was not a friendly expression. "You want proof, little human?" he asked. "Very well. I will give you proof. I propose a challenge." Katie's eyes narrowed slightly, but her voice stayed calm. "What kind of challenge?" "Combat," Zrathkin said. "Traditional Vorn challenge combat. You and me, alone, in the arena of my flagship. Hand to hand. No weapons. No armor. Just your body against mine." A gasp went through the room. Some students started crying again. The idea was insane. Katie was a normal human girl. She had no military training that anyone knew of. Fighting General Zrathkin would be like a mouse fighting a tiger. "What are the terms?" Katie asked. "If you win, my forces will withdraw from this entire star system. We will leave, and we will not return for 100 years. The general leaned closer. "But if I win, your species surrenders to the Dominion. Completely. Unconditionally. And you become my personal trophy. I will keep you as a reminder of human foolishness." Professor Vex finally found his courage. He stepped forward, his hands shaking but his voice clear. "This is madness," he said. "She is a student. She is not a soldier or a warrior. General, I must protest this in the strongest possible terms. This is not a fair challenge. It is murder with extra steps." "Quiet," Zrathkin snapped without looking at him. "I am not speaking to you, Professor. I am speaking to the human who claims her species does not flinch." He turned back to Katie. "Well, you speak bravely, but words are cheap. Will you back your words with action? Or are you just a coward pretending to be brave?" Every eye in the room was on Katie. Her classmates stared at her with horror and fear. They expected her to refuse. They hoped she would refuse. Fighting the general was suicide. Everyone knew that. Katie was silent for a long moment. She seemed to be thinking carefully. Then she asked a question. "What are the rules of this challenge combat?" The general's eyes widened slightly. He had not expected her to actually consider accepting. "Traditional Vorn rules," he said. "No weapons of any kind. No armor. No assistance from others. Hand-to-hand combat only. The fight continues until one fighter surrenders by saying the words, or until one fighter cannot stand anymore. 3 rounds, and if I refuse to fight..." Zrathkin's voice became cold as ice. "Then I will destroy this academy and kill everyone inside it. I will burn this entire world as an example of what happens to those who insult the Vorn Dominion." Katie nodded slowly. She looked around the room at her terrified classmates. She looked at Professor Vex, who was silently begging her with his eyes to do something, anything, to make this situation end. She looked at the Vorn soldiers with their deadly weapons. Then she looked back at the general. And something changed in her eyes. Something ancient and cold and hard appeared in them. It was something that did not belong in the eyes of a simple student. "I accept your challenge," she said. The room exploded with noise. Students shouted and screamed. Professor Vex grabbed his head in despair. Some students tried to rush forward to stop her, but the Vorn soldiers kept them back. Through all of this, Katie remained calm. She picked up her bag from her desk and walked toward the general. She stood before him, this tiny human girl in front of this massive alien warrior. "When?" she asked. "Tomorrow at noon," Zrathkin said. He sounded pleased. "My flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, is in orbit above this world. You will be brought aboard at dawn to prepare." "I will be ready," Katie said, as the general and his soldiers turned to leave. Katie's roommate pushed through the crowd. Her name was Sophia Grant, and she was crying as she grabbed Katie's arm. "Katie, what are you doing? He will kill you. You are not a fighter." You studied diplomatic history. You have never been in a fight in your life." Katie looked at her friend with that strange, cold expression still in her eyes. But when she spoke, her voice was gentle. "Sophia," she said quietly, "there is something I never told you about my family." That night, Katie and Sophia sat in their small dormitory room. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air system. Outside the window, they could see the lights of the Vorn flagship moving slowly across the night sky. Tomorrow, Katie would be on that ship. Tomorrow, she would fight for her life. Katie sat in front of a holographic display. She had pulled up an old family photograph, one she had never shown anyone at the academy. In the picture, a young man in a military uniform stood next to a woman holding a baby. The man had brown eyes, the same color as Katie's. He looked strong and calm, even in the old image. "Your grandfather," Sophia said quietly. She sat on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. "You mentioned him once or twice before. His name was Commander Lucas Morgan," Katie said. "He died 12 years before I was born, during the First Contact War against the Rithian Collective." Sophia nodded slowly. She remembered learning about that war in her classes. It was one of humanity's first major conflicts with an alien species, long before the Galactic Alliance was formed. "The Rithians were like the Vorn," Katie continued. "They were bigger than humans, stronger. They had better technology and more ships. When they first attacked Earth's colonies, everyone said humanity did not stand a chance. Military experts from other species gave us 3 weeks before we would have to surrender." "But you did not surrender," Sophia said. "No." Katie touched the image of her grandfather's face. "The war lasted 4 years, and humans won. Not because we were stronger or smarter, but because we refused to give up. Every time the Rithians thought they had beaten us, we came back. Every time they destroyed our ships, we built more. Every time they killed our soldiers, more humans volunteered to fight." She turned off the photograph and brought up a different file. This one showed training videos, combat techniques, exercise programs, physical conditioning charts. All of them had dates going back years. "Katie," Sophia whispered, her eyes going wide. "What is this?" "This is my real education," Katie said. "The one no one at this academy knows about." She stood up and began to stretch. Her movements were different now. They were precise and controlled in a way Sophia had never noticed before. Every motion flowed into the next like water. "Every morning for the past 10 years, Katie explained, I wake up 2 hours before anyone else. I train combat techniques, pressure point attacks, defensive movements, endurance exercises. I have been doing this since I was 12 years old. But why?" Sophia asked. "You are studying to be a diplomat. Why would you need to know how to fight?" "Because my grandmother taught me something important." Katie moved into a fighting stance, then relaxed again. "She told me that the universe does not care about being fair. It does not care about what you want or what you deserve. The universe only respects those who are ready to defend themselves." She walked to her closet and took out a small box she had brought from Earth. Inside, wrapped in old cloth, was a simple leather bracelet. It was worn and faded, clearly very old. "This belonged to my grandfather," Katie said, putting the bracelet on her wrist. "He wore it in every battle he ever fought. He told my grandmother that it reminded him of what he was fighting for. Not glory, not revenge. Just the simple belief that humans deserve to exist, that we deserve to be free." Sophia got up from the bed and walked to her friend. She looked at the bracelet, then at Katie's face. "Even with all your training," she said, "the Vorn general has been fighting for hundreds of years. He has killed thousands of enemies. He has genetic enhancements that make him faster and stronger than any human could ever be. Katie, how can you possibly win against that? Katie smiled, but there was something serious behind it. The Vorn think strength is everything. They think that bigger and faster always wins. But humans know something different. We know that willpower matters more than muscle. We know that a small creature who refuses to give up can defeat a large creature who expects an easy victory. She went to her desk and pulled up more files. These showed detailed information about Vorn biology, diagrams of their bodies, charts showing their nervous systems, lists of pressure points and weak spots. The Vorn are strong, Katie said, but they are not perfect. No species is. They have vulnerable points, just like every other creature in the galaxy. Their joints work a certain way. Their nerves are located in specific places. If you know where to strike, you can hurt them. You can slow them down. You can make them weak. You have been studying them, Sophia realized. For how long? 3 years. Since the Vorn first started expanding toward human space. My grandmother sent me reports from military intelligence. She made sure I was ready. Katie looked at her friend. I did not know this exact moment would come. But I knew that someday, somehow, I might need to show an enemy what humans are truly made of. Sophia felt tears forming in her eyes. What if you lose? What if he kills you? Katie was quiet for a moment. Then she put her hands on Sophia's shoulders. If I lose, she said gently, then I will lose while fighting with everything I have. I will lose standing on my feet, never giving up, never surrendering. And even that will mean something. Even that will show the galaxy that humans are not easy prey. She hugged her friend tightly. But I am not planning to lose, Katie whispered. Tomorrow, that general is going to learn something he never expected. He's going to learn what happens when you underestimate a human. Outside, the lights of the Dominion's wrath continued to move across the dark sky. In less than 12 hours, Katie would be inside that ship. In less than 12 hours, she would face the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy. But as she held her friend and felt the old leather bracelet against her skin, Katie was not afraid. She was ready. She had been ready for a long time. The arena aboard the Dominion's Wrath was carved from black stone. It was a circular pit, about 50 meters wide, with walls that rose 3 meters high. Above those walls, rows and rows of seats climbed toward the distant ceiling. Thousands of Vorn warriors sat in those seats. They had come from every part of the ship to watch this fight. Bright lights shone down on the arena floor. Giant screens on the walls showed the empty pit from different angles. The sound of clicking mandibles and growling voices filled the air. The Vorn were excited. They expected to see their general crush another weak alien. They expected entertainment. A door opened on one side of the arena. Katie Morgan walked through it. She wore simple gray clothes. A loose shirt. Plain pants. No shoes. Her brown hair was tied back from her face. On her wrist, she wore her grandfather's leather bracelet. She carried nothing else. The Vorn crowd made a sound that might have been laughter. Katie looked so small standing there. She looked so weak. Some of the warriors started placing bets on how quickly she would fall. Others debated whether she would survive even one hit from the general. Katie walked to the center of the arena. She stood there alone, looking up at the thousands of alien faces staring down at her. She did not smile. She did not wave. She simply waited. The screens around the arena were broadcasting this fight across the entire sector. Millions of beings on hundreds of worlds were watching. In the headquarters of the Galactic Alliance, admirals and politicians sat in grim silence. They did not expect the human to win. They were already planning how to respond when she died. On Earth, in a small house in the countryside, an old woman sat in front of her own screen, Her name was Margaret Morgan, and she was Katie's grandmother. Her hands were pressed together in prayer. Her eyes never left the image of her granddaughter standing alone in that black arena. A second door opened on the opposite side of the arena. General Zrathkan stepped through. He had removed his armor for this fight, as the rules required. But even without armor, he was terrifying. His gray body was covered in thick scales that looked almost like natural armor. His muscles moved under his skin like snakes. He stood almost 3 meters tall, and his 4 red eyes glowed with hunger for battle. The crowd roared with approval as their general entered. He raised one clawed hand, and they cheered even louder. Zrathkan walked toward the center of the arena. He stopped about 10 meters from Katie. Up close, the difference in their sizes was shocking. He was like a mountain standing next to a flower. "You actually came," he said. "I thought you might run away in the night." "I told you," Katie replied. Humans do not flinch. An old Vorn with ceremonial markings on his scales stepped to the edge of the arena. He was the arena master, responsible for announcing the rules. "The challenge is set," the old Vorn declared. His voice was carried by speakers throughout the ship. General Zrathkan of the Vorn Dominion against Katie Morgan of humanity. 3 rounds. No weapons. No surrender except by spoken word. Combat continues until one fighter cannot rise. May strength decide the truth. The crowd fell silent. The arena master raised his hand. Then he brought it down. The first round began. Zrathkan moved with terrifying speed. For something so large, he should not have been able to move so fast. His first punch was aimed at Katie's head. It was a blow that could have shattered stone. If it connected, it would kill her instantly. Katie was not there. At the last possible moment, she stepped to the side. The general's fist passed so close to her face that she felt the wind from it. But it did not touch her. He struck again. A second punch, faster than the first. Again, Katie moved. She flowed around the attack like water around a rock. The general launched a series of rapid strikes. Punches, elbow strikes, kicks, knee strikes. Each one was powerful enough to end the fight. Each one missed by centimeters as Katie danced around them. She was not trying to block. She knew she could not match his strength. If she tried to block even one of his full-power strikes, it would break her arm. So instead, she avoided everything. She moved constantly, never staying in one place, never giving him a solid target. 3 minutes passed. Zrathkan was breathing harder now. He had not expected this. He had expected to end the fight in seconds. Instead, he was chasing a shadow that he could not catch. The Vorn crowd had grown quiet. This was not what they expected to see. Katie had not landed a single blow. But she had not been touched either. And more importantly, she was stunning him. With each attack, she watched how he moved. She looked for patterns. She looked for weaknesses. "You are quick," Zrathkan admitted, stepping back to catch his breath. "Quicker than I expected. You drop your right shoulder before every big attack," Katie said calmly. "It is a tell. It shows me where you are going to strike before you move." The general's eyes widened. No one had ever identified his weaknesses before. No one had survived long enough to study him. The second round began, and this time Zrathkan changed his technique. He made his attacks more varied, less predictable. He mixed up his timing. He used feints to disguise his real strikes. Katie was forced to move faster now. She had to push her body to its absolute limits. Twice, she barely avoided killing blows. Her heart pounded in her chest. Her lungs burned. Then his clawed hand caught her shoulder. The sharp edges cut through her shirt and drew a line of blood. The crowd cheered. First blood belonged to the General. But Katie did not fall. She did not cry out. She simply moved back, giving herself space. and got ready for the next attack. And then, when Zrathkin launched his next punch, Katie struck back. It was a simple palm strike, fast and precise. It hit the general in the center of his chest, in a spot where 3 major nerves met. Zrathkin doubled over, gasping for air. His 4 eyes went wide with shock. The crowd went completely silent. No one could believe what they had just seen. The tiny human had hurt the general. "Pressure point," Katie said, circling him slowly. "Your species has the same vulnerable nerve clusters as many others. Different locations, but the same principle. I studied Vorm biology for 3 years, General. I know exactly where to hit you." Zrathkan rose to his full height. There was fury in his eyes, but also something else. Something that looked almost like respect. "You planned this," he growled. "From the moment I walked into that classroom." "I prepared for the possibility," Katie corrected him. "There is a difference. Humans have been preparing for enemies like you since we first learned we were not alone in the universe." The 3rd round was about to begin, and both fighters now knew that this would not be the easy victory the Vorn had expected. The 3rd round was brutal. General Zrathkin stopped holding back. He stopped trying to make the fight look elegant or entertaining. He fought to kill. His enhanced body pushed beyond its normal limits. His strikes came faster and harder than anything he had shown before. Katie could not avoid everything now. She took hits. A glancing blow caught her side and cracked 2 of her ribs. The pain was sharp and immediate, making it hard to breathe. She kept moving. A kick connected with her leg and sent her sliding across the stone floor. She rolled and got back up before he could follow up. A backhand caught the side of her face, splitting her lip and filling her mouth with blood. Stars exploded across her vision. She blinked them away and dodged the next strike. The Vorn crowd watched in stunned silence. They had stopped cheering. They had stopped making any sound at all. They could not understand what they were seeing. This tiny creature should have been dead by now. She should have been broken on the arena floor. Instead, she kept getting back up. Every time she fell, she rose again. Every time she took a hit that should have ended the fight, she kept fighting. It was impossible. It went against everything the Vorn believed about strength and weakness. But Katie Morgan was still standing, and she was still fighting back. During the chaos of the general's attacks, she landed more strikes of her own. Another palm strike to a nerve cluster in his shoulder. A precise jab to a pressure point near his hip. A quick finger strike to a spot above his kidney. Each one did not seem like much. Each one barely made him pause. But Katie knew what she was doing. She knew exactly how Vorn biology worked. And she knew that damage was building up inside him, even if he did not feel it yet. "Yield," she said, spitting blood onto the arena floor. Her voice was rough with pain, but it was still steady. "You should stop now, General." Zrathkin laughed, but there was confusion behind it. "You tell me to yield? Look at yourself, human. You are bleeding. Your ribs are broken. You can barely stand." "Look at yourself," Katie replied. "Your left arm is hanging lower than before. Your movements have slowed. The pressure points I hit are starting to affect your nervous system. In about 5 minutes, your left leg will stop working completely." The general's eyes narrowed. He tried to move his left arm and found that it was slower to respond than it should be. He shifted his weight and noticed that his left leg felt strangely heavy. "That is impossible," he said. "You cannot do this to me. I am enhanced. My body is perfected. Your body has nerves, just like any other body," Katie said. "And nerves can be damaged. Vorn neural pathways take about 4 minutes to fail after enough trauma to the connected pressure points. I have been hitting those points throughout this fight. I studied your species, General. I know your weaknesses." She spread her hands, palms open. It was not a fighting stance. It was an offer. "This can end without more pain," she said. "Yield now. Honor your word and withdraw your forces from this system. No one else needs to get hurt." For a long moment, nothing happened. The arena was completely silent. Thousands of Vorn warriors stared at the impossible scene below them. Millions more watched on screens across the galaxy. General Zrathkin looked at the human standing before him. She was a mess. Blood ran down her face from the cut on her lip. She was holding her side where her ribs were broken. Bruises were forming on her arms and legs. By any reasonable measure, she was half dead, but she was still standing. She was still looking at him with those calm brown eyes. And she was offering him mercy. "Why?" he asked. His voice was quieter now. "Why do you offer me a way out? By the rules of our combat, you could try to finish me." "Because this was never about killing you," Katie said. "I did not come here to prove that humans are better killers than Vorn. I came here to show you something. To show everyone something." She gestured at the thousands of Vorn watching from the seats above. She gestured at the screens, showing her image across the stars. "Humanity is young," she said. "We are small. We are weak compared to species like yours. We do not have genetic enhancements or centuries of warrior tradition. We cannot punch through walls or run as fast as ground vehicles. By every physical measure, we should be easy to conquer." She took a step toward the general. Despite everything, despite his size and his power and his reputation, he took a step back. "But we have something else," Katie continued. "Something you cannot breed into your warriors. Something you cannot take by force. We do not give up, ever. You can beat us down. You can burn our worlds. You can destroy everything we have built. And we will pick ourselves up and start again. Because that is what humans do. That is what we have always done." She was standing right in front of him now, looking up at his 4 red eyes with no fear at all. "We survive. We adapt. We endure. And we never, ever stop fighting for what we believe in." General Zrathkin stared at her for a long time. The arena was so quiet that everyone could hear his heavy breathing. They could hear the soft drip of blood falling from Katie's wounds onto the stone floor. Then the most feared warrior in the galaxy did something that no Vorn had ever done before. He knelt. "I yield," he said. His voice echoed through the silent arena. "The challenge is finished. The Vorn Dominion will withdraw from this system, as I promised." The silence stretched for another moment. Then, somewhere in the crowd, a single Vorn started making a strange sound. It was like clicking and humming at the same time. Another Vorn joined in. Then another. And another dot. It was applause. The Vorn were applauding her. Katie swayed slightly on her feet. The pain was catching up with her now. The adrenaline that had kept her fighting was starting to fade. "General," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I hope this is the beginning of something new between our people. War is not the only way." "Perhaps," Zrathkin said slowly, rising to his feet. "Perhaps you are right. I have learned more about humanity in this hour than in all my years of study." He looked at her with something like wonder in his 4 eyes. "You are a remarkable species." Medical teams rushed into the arena to help Katie. As they carefully lifted her onto a stretcher, she looked up at the screens above. She knew that millions of beings had watched this fight. She knew that everything was about to change. On Earth, her grandmother was crying with joy. In the Galactic Alliance headquarters, admirals were rewriting their assessment of humanity's importance. And across the galaxy, beings of 100 different species were learning a new lesson about the small, fragile creatures from the 3rd planet of an unremarkable star. Humans were weak. Humans were young. Humans were easy to underestimate. But humans did not flinch. Humans did not give up. And humans would never stop fighting for their right to exist among the stars. As Katie closed her eyes and let the medical team carry her away, she smiled through her pain. Her grandfather would have been proud. Her grandmother would tell this story for the rest of her life, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again.